Welcome to Football Game Plan's FCS Kickoff presented by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting, and we've made it here to the final week of the FCS as we get ready for championship weekend between James Madison and Youngstown State. Here's what we have on tap for this week's episode. Obviously, we'll preview the championship game between James Madison and Youngstown State. We'll also take a look at some of the NFL draft prospects you want to keep an eye on in this particular ball game, and also some keys to victory and X factors as we break down this matchup from soup to nuts. Obviously, these two teams are here because they're stacked with talent, some senior talent as well, and we'll take a look at some of the senior NFL draft prospects you want to keep an eye on in this ball game. There's going to be a bevy of NFL scouts on hand to watch these two teams play because of the talent that's out there on the field. Khalid Abdullah is a tremendous tailback at 5'10", 220, over 1,700 yards this year, and he's one of the more underrated running backs in the FCS this season. I like Taylor Reynolds, the cornerback, the senior, 5'11", 195, a Football Game Plan preseason All-American. And for Youngstown State, two tremendous defensive end prospects in Derek Rivers and Avery Moss will be playing at the East-West Shrine game at the end of this month. And also, don't forget, Leroy Alexander is a strong safety that has ball skills, which makes him a valued commodity in the NFL draft circles. Don't forget to check out and grab your copy of our two newly released books, Football: A Love Story and What Did Football Teach Me? These books feature over 100 stories from current and former coaches, players, executives, and entertainers from across the football landscape, describing what got them involved in the game, what they love about it, and what life lessons the game taught them. You can find your copy or order your copy from our website at footballgameplan.com/books.
Well, I think the FCS is really, when you look at it, it's the perfect model for football. Okay, in that as a coach, number one, you deal with Division I, it's great. You deal with a high level of athlete. In our case, you deal with a high level of student. It's extremely competitive football. It's a great environment, but it's also doesn't have some of the trappings that the bigger levels have as far as the business and the money of things. But it's pure football. And as a coach, that's what I like is it's about the football. And I think the way we determine our champion is the best playoff system in all of sports. And I think that you can never argue with who the national champion is at the FCS level. And it's just top to bottom the most competitive bracket of playoff sports there is in any of the sports. So if you like the action, I think the quality of play is extremely high. I think the quality of person is extremely high. I think there's some great coaches at our level, and it's attainable to fans too. It's also you come to an FCS game, you have a little bit more of a close experience to the players. And in our case, the players meet the people in the town. It's right there. They're not kind of like these pros in waiting. You can reach out, you can touch them, you can meet the coaches, you can do that stuff. It's just enjoyable football at a real high level still.
Now it's time to preview the heavyweight fight between James Madison and Youngstown State, and we'll start this thing off with some keys to victory for both teams, starting with James Madison. For the Dukes in this ball game, it's about utilizing double tight end sets to combat those Penguin defensive ends. They're going to face tremendous pressure coming off both sides from Avery Moss and Derek Rivers. Those two guys can really rush the passer and also be disruptive versus the running game. So utilizing double tight end sets expands that formation for the Dukes and also expands those rush responsibilities for Youngstown State, which then should allow them the ability to run inside. And they have to maintain an efficient level of tempo. If their offense is operating at a fast pace and they're being efficient, then keep that fast pace. If they're finding themselves struggling, trying to go up tempo, then slow it down a bit. As long as they're efficient, I think they could be effective. And this goes without saying, they have to own the line of scrimmage defensively. They're facing one of the best rushing football teams in the FCS. That defensive line, that defensive front seven will be put to the test in this ball game. And for Youngstown State, I would say hit the ground running. Literally, again, one of the best rushing offenses in the FCS. Dance with whom you brought to the party, and it was their ground game behind that big offensive line. And defensively, it's about forcing Brian Shore, the quarterback, to make tight window throws. I love the secondary here in Youngstown State, and those guys have an opportunity to play up on the line of scrimmage and force Shore to make tight window passes consistently throughout the ball game. And the Penguin wide receivers, I believe, have to step up and make plays. Again, they don't throw often, but when they do, the receivers have to find ways to get open. They have to find ways to catch the football, which I think will ultimately help them move the sticks and stay on the field. Biggest X factor in this game for James Madison will be the play of their offensive line. If the Dukes can't keep Moss and Rivers out of the backfield, is going to throw off their entire offensive attack. This was a group that came out and dominated Sam Houston State in the semifinals and also dominated up front versus North Dakota State. So if they can come in and have an encore performance, they can win this game, but that offensive line has to bring their A game versus one of the best defensive fronts in college football. And for Youngstown State, the biggest X factor is strong safety Leroy Alexander. He's a force versus the run. He does a great job in taking proper angles to the football to defend the off-tackle run. And he also has very good ball skills to make plays on the back end. So he's going to be asked to do a lot of dual things again with this defense, within this defense. And if he's able to make things tough for Shore to move the football down the field vertically with the passing game and also be disruptive in stopping the run, this defense by themselves could help Youngstown State win the championship. I like James Madison in this ball game. I know this is a strength versus strength battle, the explosive offense of the Dukes versus the very tough defense of Youngstown State, but quite honestly, it will be the defense of James Madison that will step up and lead them to victory. Look for Andrew Ankra and company to be a big reason why the Dukes walk away the 2017 FCS National Champions. So that's a wrap for this week's episode of the FCS Kickoff. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media accounts, and don't forget to check out and subscribe on iTunes to the FCS Opening Drive podcast.